So as me Bruce Squeen, the standard lens mug situation up in this biatch. I also have some leftover Domino Woes pizza because, well, I had a 10 slice pie and obviously I didn't finish it because I was a pussy elf. So a bit of that is happen wing. So, lots to catch up upon because I've actually... Well, there was tons of stuff with this Apple launch event that happened yesterday evening. It was yesterday evening our time, so Greenwich Mean Time, because the British are the inventors of time. That's all that really matters. So let's talk about the first key thing that came out of the launch event, which was the iPad Mini, which is kind of really the thing that was most anticipated. So let's go through that. So it's a 7. I'll just go through specs and I'll discuss it afterwards because it's a bit of a disappointment really, but I'll go through specs. So it's a 7.9 inch tablet, not straight up 7, 1024 by 768 resolution screen. We'll get to that in a minute. A5X chip, 5 megapixel rear facing camera, which is going to do 1080p, 1.2 megapixel front facing camera, which can do 720p, lightning port, and it will cost about 269 Great British pounds or $329 US. So first of all, it's slightly bigger than 0.9 of an inch bigger than whatever else is on the market. Now Apple reckon this makes it a lot bigger without compromising on standard sizes, really. Pixel resolution. Now, it's not a big deal, it's not a big issue, but if you're going to go after the market, at least go after the current market in terms of specs and everything else. Screen resolution. Not a big deal, but it kind of does matter. If you're not keeping up with the likes of the Nexus 7, so let's do a compare and contrast here. The new iPad Mini has a 1024 by 768 resolution, which works out about 163 pixels per inch, which is irrelevant. We'll ignore the pixels per inch. But compare that to even the Amazon Kindle Fire HD. The Kindle Fire and the Nexus 7 both have a 1280 by 800 resolution screen, and it's smaller. So a 7-inch screen compared to a 7.9-inch screen, increased resolution. Now, I just can't even believe that they're even doing that because you can't. I don't know. I mean, Apple fanboys are going to go and buy it anyway. Idiots are going to go and buy it because, oh no, it's got a shiny Apple badge. We're just going to go and buy it because they're fanboys. It doesn't matter. But that's not the point. I'm not hating on Apple. Well, I kind of am, but I'm not. I'm not hating on Apple just because I hate Apple. I'm hating on Apple for various good reasons. I'm not being back in the day when I used to be a real Microsoft fanboy. I used to do that, but I don't do that anymore. But Apple aren't keeping up with the current market. You can't do stuff like that and then expect. I mean, of course, people are going to go and buy it because it's Apple, but you can't try and win some of that market. If you've got if you're in that market for a 7-inch tablet, are you going to get an iPad Mini? No, of course you're not, because it costs 69 quid more than both of the two. In actual fact, it costs a hell of a lot more than the Kindle Fire, because the Kindle Fire's 16 gig version is, I think it's 160 quid. I'll check up there. But obviously, the 16 gig Nexus 7 is 200 quid. And the new one, the 32 gig, will come out, which is 200 quid, which again will be 200 quid. So how the hell they expect to keep up with the current market, I do not fucking know. It's just absolutely atrocious. Like, even the A5 chip, whoop-de-fucking-do. What a big disappointment that is. Bloody... I mean, the trouble is with it doesn't actually go into proper specs. I know specs aren't everything, but they kind of are. Especially in the realms of, the current state of iOS 6. I mean, come on, Apple, really? iOS 6 is just a fucking abomination of an OS. And I'm sorry, anybody that disagrees with me, have you ever actually fucking used it properly? Because seriously, I have crashes on this all the time. I'm actually using as opposed to my Nexus 7, I'm actually using my iPad because I want the bigger screen. That's the only difference between the iPad. This is the iPad 3, which I took because there's a new iPad coming out as well, which is nothing news. I like the bigger screen on this, so that's why I'm using this. But settings crash all the time. I've already said this before. App Store crashes all the time. It's fucking annoying as hell. So yeah, I think it's a big disappointment. I don't see why you'd go out and buy one unless you were really like, oh no, it's Apple. There's nothing going for it. You'd say yes, okay, amazing. 0.9 of an inch bigger screen. Is it really worth it for less resolution, same chip by the looks of things, because they don't go into actual specs of the chip We don't know what it's running at. It's a dual-core A5 chip. That's all we know. The Nexus 7 runs a 1.2 gigahertz quad-core chip. I know that much. And the Fire runs a dual-core 1.2 gig chip as well. So, but the A5 chip, we're not too sure what's going on about that. We're not too sure about cache. Not too sure about anything else. But I'm sure someone will do a breakdown. I'm sure there is a breakdown somewhere, but I can't be bothered to find it. 5 megapixel rear-facing camera is the only thing that I'd say may be the decision maker for some people. 5 megapixel rear-facing camera, which can do 1080p. Now, when I went to New York, it was the only time I actually saw people using the iPad as a primary picture-taking device and as a primary video-taking device. Granted, the screen is huge. If you could put that screen on any camera, that'd be fucking amazing. But you wouldn't. It's too big. Okay, fair enough. If you were in a studio, you'd have it rigged. I mean, like I've currently got my 600D is currently rigged up to my laptop, so I can actually see proper big screens, as opposed to looking at a shitty little one attached to the side. Which is why I like, it's a fantastic screen for camera taking, but that's about it. So, I mean, like I say, this video is going to go on for ages and ages and ages, because there's tons of stuff to get through, and hopefully you can see the bookmarks on the side, where you can actually skip through things. So, the new iPad, the iPad 4. So again, I'll go through specs and then we'll rattle through other bits. This bit's really, really short. There's nothing really much to report. iPad 4, they call it the iPad with the Retina display. They're not calling it. I mean, it's 4th generation iPad. Really, they're not calling it like, because they went through the iPad, and then there was the iPad 2, and then they didn't go with the iPad 3 for whatever reason. I don't really know why that was. So yeah. A6 chip is the kind of the new thing really with that. Twice as fast as the previous A5 chip. That's a load of bullshit. Apple do this thing where they don't actually give you the actual specs. They just say, oh, it's twice as fast. Twice as fast as the previous. Doing what? Is that video processing? Is that loading up? I don't know what the hell they base it on, but apparently it's quote unquote twice as fast. There's this bullshit with Apple. Just, I don't know, marketing with Apple's just gone. What the they never. I'm sure they never used to do it when Jobs was alive. When Jobs was alive, it was completely different. I don't know what just Apple are just. Oh, I don't know. Anyway, so A6X chip, new front-facing camera. So a 1.2 megapixel camera, 720p. So that's for FaceTime and all your other shiz, compared to a 0.3 meg on the iPad 3, which is what this currently is at the moment. And a lightning connector. So they're getting rid of the big one and going for a little one, said the vicar. And that's going to start off at the same price as the old iPad, so 399 great British pounds or 499 US dollars. So that's that really. New iMac. What an absolute mess. I'll talk specs first. We'll go into the what they've done, but it's again ruining the brand, ruining. I don't know, just ugh. New iMac, 5mm thin, very very good point, very very thin. Ivy Bridge processors, Core i5, Core i7, and we're starting off price points: 21.5 inch Core i5 quad core version. I was going to say 10 grand then. 1,099 of Her Majesty's Finest, or $12.99 US dollars for the 21.5 inch. 27 inch starts off at about 1,500 quid, so 14.99 great British pounds and 17.99 US dollars. So lots of money. Right, so let's go into this, because this is, what the hell are they seriously doing? So, iPad mini, disappointment, not keeping up with the market. iPad 4, meh, wow, whoop-de-fucking-do. I'm not going to if I have an iPad 3, I'm not going to upgrade it just for that quote-unquote better chip that's in there. The screen's exactly the same. There's no other improvements from what I can see. Lightning connector, meh, not interested. Okay, FaceTime camera, maybe, might be better for Skype, FaceTime, etc. if you use that a lot. But no, I mean, chip I'm not really too fussed about. Now iMac. Thinner. Does it matter? It doesn't matter, does it? unless you're going to be lugging the bastard around, it doesn't matter. It doesn't. I don't think it looks any better than the previous one. I like thick stuff. Thick stuff's good. It doesn't take any less space up on your desktop, so there's no point in with footprints in that sort of respect. And what they got, the Ivy Bridge i7 and i5. Meh. Essentially, what it is it's a laptop in a desktop. So they've got laptop components, whizzed it into a desktop, well, like an all-in-one type thing. So you're really getting, I don't know, you're getting really, it's essentially quite shit. It always used to be, there used to be workstations in an all-in-one. They seem to now be going down the route of creating all-in-ones that are basically just laptop components. There's nothing I can see in there that makes you go, wow, I fucking want one, because there isn't. Screen resolution may be the only thing going for it at the moment, because specs aren't really one of them. I mean, the Mac Pro, I mean, what the hell are they doing? Losing market share left, right and centre with the Mac Pro, because it's out of date. It's not up to date with everything. You've got the industries moving to HP's and Adobe CS6. That's what the industry's doing. If you don't believe me, that's what's happening. Final Cut Pro, the new version of that, is no good for professionals anymore. The Mac Pro is out of date, so it's no good as a render farm. It's no fucking good for that anymore. When you've got the likes of HP developing some really, really good hardware, coupling that with some Windows 7, Windows 8, nobody's using. The industry isn't going to Macs now. They're now coming back to Windows, because Windows is at the forefront. You've got so many OEMs to compete. They're constantly updating and they're upgrading, and Intel are bringing out constant new chips and stuff like that, and RAM prices are coming down, and SSDs are changing left, right and centre. So what the fuck are you doing, Apple? It's just ridiculous. I just don't understand it at all. But no, so that's that really. I mean, whoop-de effing do really. It's nothing. If you didn't have an iMac before, is it going to change your mind? No. Is it going to make you upgrade? Maybe for the Ivy Bridge. Maybe. But do you really give a shit? I mean, to be honest, generally, I wouldn't have thought. The only people that will get iMacs generally are going to be the likes of families who would just want an all-in-one, because it's a Mac. It's quite easy. Fair enough. They've still got that edge. It is insanely easy to use. Windows 8's come along and it's kind of not that easy to use. It's easier to use, I suppose, coming from a newbie user point of view, but it's not easy to use. Metro's kind of meh, but no. So that's kind of the primary, I suppose, aspect of it. Home users, business, not so much. If we were to look into like an IT department, they might have a few kicking around for developing, maybe. But they probably more than likely have Mac Pros. Graphic designers might have one because it looks funky, and them being graphic designers, they like things to be nice and look nice, and just to make their office just look better than anything else. Or, well, their perception of things looking better, but that's that. Maybe certain shops might do, because it looks nicer. Certain, like if you were to go into reception areas, maybe. But again, unless it's a small business, you're not going to bother, are you? You're going to have a unified Windows interface, bit of Exchange running, you're going to have Active Directory running, and that's going to be that. You're not going to have a fully, managed Mac fleet, because you just wouldn't. So the next piece of news, after I've ranted on, is the new Retina Display MacBook Pro, 13-inch MacBook Pro, resolution 2560 by 1600. That is pretty sweet. I quite like that. That's actually one of the things I'd say, okay, Apple, yes, okay. You've actually done something right here, because the Retina display does look fucking amazing. Now, would the general user use it? No. For the simple fact that it starts off at 1,400 quid. Or, 1,500 quid actually, so 14.99 Great British Pounds, or 16.99 US dollars. So lots and lots and lots and lots of money. And essentially for that, you pretty much just get a Retina display, from all I can see. But 2560 by 1600 on a 13-inch screen does look pretty sweet. I don't think, even if I did have the money, I'd go out and buy one though. Because I just wouldn't. So yeah, that's kind of that. And the only thing really to round the thing off really with is the Fusion Drive. Fusion Drive, we've not got much details on it. The only thing they've actually said is they're combining. It's kind of like a hybrid drive, but like a better version of a hybrid drive. It's quite a good idea. To be fair, to be fair to Apple, it's quite a good idea. They're getting a dedicated SSD and a dedicated hard drive and kind of amalgamating them together in some weird, fancy custom case sort of type deal. No ideas on pricing, no ideas on ordering. And that's that. Quite a good idea, though, I think. Better than standard hybrid drive. And what's going to happen is the program is going to automatically install on the SSD, and documents and stuff like that are going to be automatically installed or saved onto the HDD. No other real word about it. I've had a bit of a trawl on the Engadget. Couldn't find any more. They sort of said details to follow. So, who knows, really? It's quite a good idea, though. So, overall, then, quite disappointing as I kind of thought it was going to be, because Apple have they're losing. I don't know what the hell they're doing. It doesn't even make any sense, because Apple are always the ones that would, they really care about quality. They really care about changing the market. From what I can see, there's nothing new that you'd say, wow, that's a market changer. Oh yeah, of course that's a market changer. iPad mini, not keeping up with the competition. 0.9 of an inch bigger than 7-inch tablets. Are they going to win the market? Maybe, maybe not. Because let's be honest, Apple's still got that brand, even though Apple are now coming down. When you look at the quality of some of the devices, I mean, what the fuck? Like, when the first Retina display came out, well, on the iPad, you had issues there anyway. You had all sorts of issues with that. Dead pixels, them not properly charging up. You had leaking. Like light leaking, which is just awful. When the new bloody iMac, when the Retina display MacBook Pros came out, loads of issues with them. Loads of issues. How many had to go back? It was some. I wouldn't be surprised if it was something like 40% of the MacBook Pros with the new Retina display that came out had to then be sent back because of either dead displays. The displays had weird things going on with them, and it's just like, that's not how Apple always were. When you think iOS 6, for fuck's sake, Maps, what the hell? Did they even test that? That's just, you don't fucking do that. I don't quite understand. Well, I do kind of understand. They lost they didn't lose the license. They didn't want to pay for a new license. So they thought, let's do it ourselves, and then fucked it up. Why the hell okay, maybe you just extend the license with Google, come to some sort of agreement, extend the license for a year maybe, so you can get your iOS 6 map squared away, so your new map squared away with TomTom or whatever it's Garmin, whoever they're working with. Don't fucking piss about with this shit. It's just, I can't even believe it. Same with the general overall OS though. How it's really buggy. I mean, of course you can blame some of the apps. Fair enough. I mean, the Twitter app's always been shit. It actually seems to be got better now, but the Twitter app's always been shit, and it's always crashed on me. Same with the Facebook app. Same with a few other apps. They've always been generally quite shit because developers don't know how to code anymore, it would seem. But the overall feeling of the iPad. iOS 6 it was slow. On my iPad 3, it's slow. App Store is a fucking... I've not got a shitty internet connection. I really haven't. It's 30 meg here. There should be no reason why it lags. Well, quote unquote lags. It's not lags. It is kind of lag, because lag's only really in terms of actual internets and networking, as opposed to screens and stuff like that. But anyway, so I'm not being a noob. I'm just pointing that out. But no, quote unquote lag. When you browse the App Store, like when you're scrolling up and down, it lags like a bitch. There should be no reason for doing that at all. It's not like you've got anything to load. You've just got pictures to load. That's all you want to load. You've got nothing, fuck all else to load. Sorry, I'm ranting, but I can't even believe that just the way it's going about. It's just ridiculous. Settings crash. My settings, like, when you go into settings in the iPad, that crashes out. Safari crashes out more often than not, which is why I use Google Chrome. The Google Chrome on the iPad isn't as good performance-wise as the Safari browser in terms of scrolling and all these other bits, but it works better. It's it's more stable, which is quite a surprise. So yeah, there is that as well. And then you've got macOS. Fucking hell, what a mess. Fair enough. Okay, it's still got the edge over Windows for idiots. So basically, standard users, they can pretty much just pick up and use it, because you can't really break very much on a Mac. But it's going to the stage where you can't piss ass around with it. As an administrator, you can't piss ass around. Now, okay, fair enough. the majority of people aren't going to be administrators, but in a business environment, it's fucking useless. Because you can't, well, I say you can embed it into Active Directory, and actually once you get it configured properly, it's fine. And granted, weirdly enough, Exchange works better on a Mac than it does in Outlook in Windows, which is weird because it's a Microsoft product. But at the end of the day, it's still I think it's a generally shit experience. I don't use it on a day-to-day basis. Granted, I don't use it on a day-to-day basis. I'm not going to say that I'm a pro expert in Mac because I really am not. I don't use Mac on a day-to-day basis, but I use Windows on a day-to-day basis. And I go onto Mac users stuff, and things break. Things break a lot more than it should do. Stupid stuff, Wi-Fi issues. Fucking hell, Wi-Fi issues come up more often than not on that, and you'd think, well, hang on. Wi-Fi is a standard thing, but if you're on anything other than an Apple airport, you're pretty much fucked by the looks of things. But there we go. I'm going to calm down and drink my brew and eat my pizza and just generally rant and rave on Twitter because, I mean, let's be honest, who gives a shit about my opinion? It's really irrelevant, really, to be honest. But that is that. I'm going to leave you to it. Comment down below. Put some comments. Do some commenty shit for a change, as opposed to just leaving me in the dark and just letting me just ramble on when I get 50 odd views and nobody actually comments. So fuck you guys. But no, leave a comment down below if you would be so kind, and I shall catch you in a later video.